At every aristocratic gathering and important event attended by Spain's elite, there is always one young man who stands out. His face is youthful, yet he moves through the circles of power with such confidence that it seems as if he has grown up in one of Europe's most prominent families. Some say he works for the royal family, others believe he's a government employee. You might assume that he comes from a wealthy and influential family, but the truth is quite different. This young man is none other than Francisco Nicolas Maselli, a person who has managed to outwit the country's elite. Francisco Nicolas Maselli was born in 1994 into a working-class family in Madrid. From a young age, his parents noticed that he was very social and extroverted. He always loved being the center of attention, even when he was still a child. Nicholas enjoyed having the cameras focused on him. His parents decided to send him to a Catholic school that catered to wealthy children and was located in one of Madrid's upscale neighborhoods. However, in reality, he was the only student who didn't come from a wealthy family. This difference quickly taught him how to adapt and start playing the role of a rich kid. Even from a young age, Nicholas had big dreams. He wanted to become the Pope, but not for the religious duties of the position. Instead, he dreamed of living in a magnificent palace, having servants, and having personal bodyguards. This ambition was evident from his early years. When Pope John Paul II passed away, a memorial service was held in Madrid. Nicholas, who was only 10 at the time, attended the ceremony with his parents. It was there that he first showcased his special talent, a talent that would later propel him into the circles of Spain's most important and wealthy people. He always made sure to be where the cameras and the public's attention were focused. At this event, 10-year-old Nicholas casually stood next to a television reporter covering the ceremony. He caught so much attention that the reporter was compelled to interview him. This incident became a pattern that would repeat many times in the years to come. Every political event or important gathering in Madrid seemed to find Nicholas in the front row, standing beside the prominent figures, as though he were one of them. In his teenage years, Nicholas's poor grades nearly led to his expulsion from the Catholic school. However, going to a public school without privileges and without the presence of wealthy children was not an option for him. Therefore, Nicolas decided to enroll in a prestigious sports school in Madrid, even though he had no athletic skills, let alone the potential to become a professional athlete. Who knows how he managed to get in? By the age of 14, Nicolas was living with his grandmother, not because his parents didn't take care of him, but because he didn't want to be constantly questioned by them. He wanted to build his own life. This led him to frequent luxury clubs where the children of wealthy families spent their time. At the age of 15, he started working at one of these clubs, organizing private parties for Madrid's elite youth. On one occasion, he was chosen as the organizer of a special event for the young, wealthy crowd in Madrid. At this party, Nicholas was the one deciding who would be allowed entry and who would be turned away. This position made everyone want to be friends with him. But soon enough, simply being in the company of the wealthy children wasn't enough for Nicholas. He wanted something beyond money, influence, and power. Some of his acquaintances at these parties were the children of politicians from Spain's conservative party, the Partido Popular. This connection opened the doors of politics to him. Nicholas began attending the ceremonies and meetings of this party, acting as though he were one of its members. With great confidence, or perhaps with great luck, no one questioned who this young man was and what he was doing next to the country's prominent politicians. Nicholas introduced himself as the president of the party's youth organization. You might be wondering how a teenager could attain such a position in a political party without any elections or votes. But believe it or not, that's exactly what happened. He recruited many young people to the party, and perhaps that was the reason why no one questioned him. Eventually, Nicholas pulled off a major move. During a press conference held by former Spanish President José Aznar, Nicolas sat right beside him. Cameras zoomed in on him, and his images spread across Spanish media. These photographs and connections made his entry into powerful circles and influential figures even easier. He consistently positioned himself at important events, standing next to executives, the mayor of Madrid, high-ranking politicians, and television personalities. He would then post these pictures on social media. The images depicted a young man who everyone assumed must be one of Spain's elite, already reaping the benefits of his status. Nicholas even spent some time in the VIP section of the Del Madrid Stadium, where crucial discussions and influential relationships took place. He effortlessly moved among important people, traveled by private jet, attended official government ceremonies, and even waved to the crowd from the balcony during a municipal celebration. No one ever questioned who he was. Perhaps everyone simply assumed that he must be someone significant. After all, an ordinary student would never have gained access to such circles. When the Partido Popular won the 2011 elections and formed the government, Nicolas reached his peak. His network expanded, and his influence spread throughout Spain. He developed a close relationship with Ramon Ilana, the Minister of Commerce. Despite Nicolas's young age, he organized exclusive gatherings for Ramon and attended critical political meetings by his side. In some cases, he even played a role in political decisions. Of course, Ramon vehemently denied these connections. However, leaked WhatsApp messages between Nicolas and Ramon suggested their relationship was indeed close. Critics claimed the messages were fabricated and that Nicolas had impersonated Ramon by using two different phones to fake conversations. But many doubted this explanation, as numerous photos and videos clearly showed Nicolas within Ramon's inner circle. For Nicolas, attending high-level meetings among politicians and economists became routine. To avoid suspicion, he employed a unique tactic. He would casually put his feet up on the table. This move not only left executives baffled, but also signaled to them who was really in control. His behavior conveyed the message that such meetings had become so ordinary to him that they no longer even mattered. A documentary was made about Nicolas, in which he stated, "I believed in myself so much that others believed in me too." This quote perfectly encapsulates how a teenager managed to reach such a level of deception and role-playing at such a young age. By the age of 18, Nicolas had enrolled in a law program. According to him, he had no fear of the university's rigorous entrance exams. He even claimed that he had entered university using a fake ID, allegedly provided by the Spanish intelligence service. Nicolas asserted that Spain's intelligence agency had used him as a spy for years to gather information from elite circles. However, Spanish intelligence officials either strongly denied these claims or refused to comment on them at all, perhaps because they didn't want to admit they had been deceived themselves. One of the most bizarre aspects of Nicolas's story was how he managed to acquire a luxurious villa in Madrid's elite neighborhood, El Viso. The villa spans 700 square meters, yet no one knew exactly how he had obtained the keys. It was likely that one of his acquaintances had given him access, asking him to take care of the property. Nicolas, with his luxurious villa in Madrid, not only had a prestigious address, but also turned it into a venue for parties and gatherings with his wealthy friends. This strategy helped him infiltrate Spain's economic circles and establish connections with influential figures. He even offered his friends and acquaintances the opportunity to hold their important meetings at his villa, a cozy and secure place where no one would disturb them, and no one could overhear their conversations. No one, except Nicolas himself. Nicolas was extraordinarily skilled at pretending to be anything he wanted. He played different roles masterfully, making others believe that associating with him would be beneficial. Sometimes he introduced himself as a government employee. Other times he claimed to be an intelligence officer. On some occasions, he simply remained mysterious. This air of secrecy earned him great respect among the elites. Many believed that someone with such confidence, who revealed nothing about himself, must surely be an aristocrat. This approach ensured that Nicolas got everything he wanted. He never paid for expensive meals, private jet flights, or even VIP seats at Real Madrid matches. He built relationships with powerful individuals and gathered valuable information from them, which later became his greatest weapon. Some even believed that he could be useful in the future. Nicolas had gained such influence among the wealthy and politicians that some businessmen were willing to pay just to be introduced to important figures through him. Documents suggest that he even attempted to influence the lawyers investigating the corruption case involving Cristina, the daughter of Spain's king. Nicolas had pushed his boundaries so far that nothing seemed impossible for him anymore. But in this game, there was one ultimate victim: the Spanish royal family. On June 19, 2014, Spain witnessed one of the most significant events in its history, the coronation of King Felipe VI. But for 20-year-old Nicolas, this day was the most important of his life. as he executed his biggest scam yet. A few weeks before the ceremony, Nicolas, using a fake identity of someone his own age, managed to obtain 70 invitations to the coronation from the royal palace through a female entrepreneur named Catalina. To this day, Catalina insists that she was not deceived by Nicolas and denies any connection to the invitations. However, evidence shows that the royal palace never sent any invitations to Catalina, while 2 invitations had been issued under Nicolas's fake identity. At the coronation, Nicolas seized the opportunity to take selfies and photos with famous personalities, further reinforcing the perception that he was someone important. Everyone assumed that if he was present at such a prestigious event, he must be a significant figure. The royal palace did not suspect anything, but a few months later, a photo surfaced that shocked the world. Nicholas had not only attended the ceremony, but had also managed to position himself in the reception line to greet the king and queen. This line was reserved for high-ranking members of the court, yet cameras captured an image of Nicolas shaking hands with King Felipe and Queen Letizia. With this move, Nicolas, at just 20 years old, had successfully infiltrated the circle of Spain's most powerful political and economic figures, even deceiving the royal family. However, Nicolas's golden era did not last long. At the height of his scams in 2014, he decided to meet with the CEO of a major bus company. The meeting was arranged through one of his acquaintances, and the CEO was told that Nicolas was a liaison between the royal palace and the vice president. Initially skeptical, the CEO eventually agreed to have dinner with Nicolas. A day before the meeting, Nicolas personally called the CEO to confirm their appointment and shared an astonishing piece of news. King Felipe himself would be attending the meeting. The CEO, astonished, contacted the restaurant where the meeting was scheduled and asked if any additional guests had been added to their table. The restaurant staff confirmed that a representative from the royal palace had called to inform them that the king would be joining the meeting. This news deeply impressed the CEO. The following day, Nicholas arrived at the meeting venue in a convoy of 3 cars with flashing lights, accompanied by a motorcycle escort. Several men stepped out of the vehicles, seemingly his personal bodyguards. In reality, they were simply his police friends who had agreed to help him stage this elaborate deception. Instead of King Felipe, the CEO now found himself standing before a young man who looked more like a college student than a powerful political figure. Nicholas apologized, explaining that the king was unable to attend, but insisted that the meeting should proceed as planned. Throughout the meeting, he repeatedly praised the CEO, spun elaborate stories, and reassured him of how vital his company was to Spain. He even claimed that both the king and the vice president fully supported him. However, by the end of the meeting, the CEO walked out of the restaurant filled with doubt and suspicion. He asked himself, who is this Francisco anyway? That single question set off a chain of events that would turn everything upside down. Nicolas never imagined that one day someone would dare to question his identity and actions. Jorge, one of the people who grew suspicious of the situation, reported the matter to the police. After an initial investigation, the authorities realized they were dealing with one of the biggest fraud cases in Spain's history. Nicolas was not just a simple con artist. He was so skilled that he had infiltrated the highest levels of politics, society, and even the aristocracy. The police formed a special task force called Operation Nicolas to investigate this complex case. For a week, they secretly monitored him and discovered how he used forged documents in cafes, stamped government logos on his fake credentials, used counterfeit license plates and flashing lights to pose as a government official, and even infiltrated universities. Finally, on October 14, 2014, Operation Nicolas was executed. He was arrested on his way to university and charged with forgery, fraud, and deception. When the police searched his childhood room at his grandmother's house, they found a mountain of fake documents. Everything from forged letters from Spain's intelligence service to counterfeit ID cards, portable flashing lights, and government license plates. But the most surprising part was Nicolas's reaction after his arrest. To the media's astonishment, he claimed he didn't understand why there was such a big scandal. He insisted that he had done nothing wrong and had always acted in the best interest of the country and the royal family. Even legal officials were shocked by the extent of his influence. In court, the judge asked, how is it possible that a 20-year-old, purely through lies, gained access to the country's most important institutions. While the police were left stunned by these revelations, the reaction from the Spanish public was completely different. The media dubbed him Little Nicolas, and surprisingly, the nickname quickly became popular among the people. Instead of despising him, young Spaniards admired him. To them, Nicolas was someone who had managed to mock the elite and expose the truth about Spain's political and economic system. As his story spread, social media exploded with memes and jokes about his obsession with selfies and his constant presence at high-profile events. An app was even created, allowing users to generate videos featuring Nicolas's face. 2 years after his arrest, Nicolas appeared on a celebrity TV show. He was now actually invited to Real Madrid matches, and in 2019, he was officially named Person of the Year. A rap song was even released referring to him as Our Little Nicolas, a fraud that turned into a political crisis. Investigations into Francisco Nicolas continued for years, turning the case into a major political issue. Over time, new connections between him and influential political and economic figures were uncovered. But Nicolas remained free and became a popular guest on talk shows. He repeatedly retold his famous story, claiming that he was a real intelligence agent who was simply following orders. However, a psychologist who examined him during the investigation dismissed this claim. He described Nicolas as a person with extreme delusions of grandeur, living in a world of his own imagination. In June 2021, Nicolas faced his first trial and was sentenced to 3 years in prison for stealing someone's identity to enter a university. A month later, he received another 3-year sentence for impersonating a government official. In December 2022, he was sentenced to 3 years and 5 months for abusing authority and forging government documents. In March 2023, his final conviction came when he was sentenced to 4 more years for bribing officials to access confidential police information. Yet, he has never actually been imprisoned. His lawyer has repeatedly appealed these sentences, causing legal battles and investigations to drag on for over a decade. But none of this has harmed Nicolas's reputation. He remains one of the most popular figures in the Spanish media. In the end, he achieved what he always wanted: fame. Now, he no longer needs to take selfies. People ask him for photos instead. What do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments.